Hello again everyone, my name is Titans Creed and I'm here on Sega Driven, and welcome back to the Sonic Amateur Games Expo 2022 coverage. In today's video we'll be looking at Sonic and Shadow, and that's developed by Doky. So what we have today in this video is what looks to be a complete 3D Sonic game, which has got 3 massive open world zones, which is spread out with several smaller open zone levels to run through, with the goal being to collect time crystals scattered throughout both types of these open zones between the world and the actual levels themselves. Essentially what this leads to is a giant treasure hunt, and unfortunately my first gripe, it does appear that there is no discernible way to know where the crystals are located other than just knowledge of the game and a bit of exploration, which is not a gripe within itself because there's a lot of fun tricks you can do. So you can run up the outer walls of the world, because both in the world and the actual level zones they seem to be essentially a half pipe with a ramp on the ground, so you can dash up them to really great heights and just jump off and just essentially free fall onto an area that you're looking for. So if you're having problems just doing the normal platform, you've always got this kind of option here that is available to do, and I thought that was quite cool. Especially the free falling animation, which you're able to just jump into when you do quite a lot of the tricks between the springs and the rails. It's all very fun there. But let's talk about the time crystals themselves, because they seem to be the currency required to enter the smaller zone levels that are spread out all over the world zone, and those world levels themselves seem to be based on the area that you are in the open world. But one thing I did notice immediately, when you do finish one of these smaller levels and you're pucked back into the open world, any crystals that you've already collected, you seem to be able to recollect. So you're not punished quite so much for a lack of exploration in the actual levels themselves. I'm guessing that this is more to do with respawning a world and placing the character back into it than reloading it with a saved state of the world, which is fine. And as I've said, it doesn't really punish a lack of exploration in the world, and you can just keep going back and collecting the same crystals over and over in order to progress, which is fine. And I think as a casual player, anyone will be able to enjoy that sort, because they can just have a knowledge of where the ones they found. But the idea is that you're meant to explore and get all the different crystals and move on that way, because not only do you need the crystals to actually enter some levels, but you also need to actually have completed levels to progress as well, which is fun. There's a lot of fun to be had there. They try to be very reminiscent of previous Sonic levels, what with the music theming and everything else. So it's very cool. We've got echoes to Palm Tree Panic, we've got echoes to Green Hill, we've got echoes to Mushroom Hill, and there's quite a fair bit of water. There's some new stuff as well, but there's a village and bits and pieces as well, which looks very reminiscent to some other fan games we've looked at previously at Sage Expo, and the hacking contest as well that happens every year. So I'm kind of hoping that they're not just dumped assets, because the game is made in Unreal 5 and it does look very pretty. But I'm hoping that these aren't just dumped assets, because in some places it just looks like they're a little bit scatterbrained, and that can be seen as well with one of my other gripes, which seems to be that some of the collision, and there seems to be some invisible walls and terrain bumps where you didn't think there would be. Like, I had some investigation where I was jumping between some treetop areas and hit just an invisible wall trying to get to another item box that you would seem to be able to reach, but there's just no way around it. So it's one of my other gripes, and this is where I think a lot of it is just reused assets and just placed into the game in order to make the game what it needs to be. But essentially, I mean, they're all minor gripes, because it's fun to play. Once you actually get the hang of the speed and the action of what you need to do, there's no real pitfalls or hazards that really get in the way in my hour that I've spent about playing the game. So there's no real problems per se. I just think that the game could have a couple more tweaks, and it could be a very solid fan game for the 3D player base. We're talking about tweaks that you can also look at how all of the sound in the game is connected to just one music slider in the options. And I had an instance where I was jumping between zones and I had Green Hill and Mushroom Hill music just overlaying each other, which became just a really bad mashup in my ears that was just overwhelming. It would be nice if we had different sliders for sound and music, and just to make things a bit more player focused and player choice there. But again, I think just a couple of tweaks, this could be a very solid game. And if the tweaks do happen, I look forward to returning and finishing a playthrough of Sonic and Shadow. It's looking like a lot of fun. I'm definitely going to play more of it, but I hope those tweaks come.